Hey, can you hear me now?
We can
Yes.
hear you beautifully.
Awesome.
Good.
Hello, Thomas.
Hello. How's it going? Is it night for you or not?
No, I'm here in Arizona, so it's still daytime.
Okay. It's a little
Awesome.
bit light. Actually, no, it's pretty light out. It's like coming up on 8 o'clock for me, but it's summer. Yes.
And
I don't know. I don't know. It's 104 here today, so I don't know
oh
if
my
I'm too
goodness.
happy about the fact that it's summer.
Oh man. Yeah, we've had heat advisory actually past couple of days, so I feel your pain.
So, and Thomas, our guest, Thomas, before I send you away for a little while, is there a particular reason why you're interested in this topic and are here today?
Well, I found Thomas's videos
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. I'm a high school student, and kind of wanted to. He had talked about it, and I said, I bet I could actually get some good information about from that." So I came and joined.
Good. I'm so glad you're
Yay.
here. Yay. And if you or anybody else has questions later on, this is how you'll get to ask those questions is you'll indicate in the Q&A that you would like to be upgraded to panelist, and then I will do that. And if your video is on, we'll see you. And if it's not, we'll just hear you. So thanks so much, Thomas. I'm actually going to kick you out now to downgrade you, and we'll talk to you later.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks,
Okay,
man.
bye. Okay.
So far, I am quite impressed with this.
Yes, good.
Yeah, it's working well.
Good. Yeah, Zoom is a good place. Okay, so I'm going to quit talking shortly so that Thomas Frank here can tell us what he's got to tell us. But first of all, I just want to let everyone know that I found College Info Geek about, I don't even know, like you've been blogging for maybe 4 years?
5 years.
5 years, yeah. So I probably found you about 4 years ago when you were still a student.
Okay.
And it was so cool for me as an academic life coach working with students to hear you reflect as a student about what you're actually trying and reflect in public. And I've just so admired your process. And now your videos and your book are all so fabulous. So I'm just really thrilled that you could be here with us today.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. You're so welcome.
And I, in turn, am a fan of your podcast. So I think I was listening to it before you actually reached out to me. So.
Oh, really? Well,
Mhm.
good. And that is what is the name of my podcast?
College Prep Podcast.
Thank you.
Good
College
stuff for high
Prep
school
Podcast.
students.
Yes.
Because I don't do as much for high school students, so it's a good
Yeah.
resource, I think.
Good. Well, thanks so much. Here's the first thing I want you to tell everybody is I want you to tell everybody the crazy story that I heard somewhere about Twitter and how you use Twitter to get your butt out of bed in the morning. So will you just tell us that?
Yeah, certainly. So to go back a little bit, I've always had trouble getting myself out of bed when there's no outside motivator making me do it. And I've tried a bazillion things to force myself to do this because I'm the kind of person who loves to be up early and to have a few hours in the morning to get things done before my obligations come up. But I'm also the kind of person who will hit the snooze button no matter where it is in my room. And I remember like all throughout college, I would climb out of my loft bed, I would turn the alarm off, and I would climb back up. Like my sleepy body had amazing superpowers when it came to expending energy, but not actually waking itself up. So the one thing I tried was I joined a military PT class that had me going and like working out at 6 a.m. with all the military kids in the ROTC. So that lasted a semester. That was fun. It wasn't fun.
Oh, it doesn't sound fun.
I tried things like forcing myself to do push-ups before I would turn my alarm off, or like putting the alarm under the bed. So I had to reach under there and expend some more energy. And I had this idea that never came to fruition, but the idea was that I would form a student organization on campus where its only purpose was that every member would have to pay in like a pretty substantial amount of money at the beginning of the semester, and every day you had to meet on central campus outside and like basically have attendance checked off that you were awake, and if you didn't, then your money would be donated to the school or something.
Mm-hmm.
I never made this, but then I got to my capstone class in MIS, and since I knew how to develop websites, I was like, I'm going to make a website that basically forces you to get up on time because you have to tell you're awake before a certain time. Otherwise, it will email something very offensive to your mother.
Oh, no. I didn't hear this part of the story.
So, yeah, I built it. Unfortunately, I did not know like good database procedures with coding. This is what happens when you're a young coder who doesn't really know what to do. So it was all working hunky-dory, but I did not realize that when you open connections, when you build a website to like a database, you have to close them too. And if you don't gunk up the website, well, unfortunately, mine gunked itself up to the point of crashing the moment I was about to present it as my final project to class. So I'm sitting there walking up and I realize it's down, not working. So I've never finished that project. But then I got to thinking, like, can I build this system with existing tools? And in fact, you can. So I've essentially made a system where if I don't wake up in time, then a tweet will go out to my Twitter followers saying, I'm still in bed, I'm lazy. Because of this, you can get $5 from me if you're the first 5 people to contact me. It also will record a data point to an app called Beeminder. And Beeminder is basically an automated way to threaten yourself to do your goals under the threat of monetary loss.
And we're going to see more about Beeminder in a little bit, right? Okay.
Yep. And that's actually a very versatile tool. I don't use it just for that. But so I'm going to show you guys the process basically. So what I do is I use a app called Buffer. Buffer is a social media scheduling tool. It works for Twitter, it works for Facebook, works for Pinterest and LinkedIn, basically everything. Started out with just Twitter. And actually, I knew the founders back when it was just a super small bootstrapped little startup. And now it's, I think they got 37 people working for them. So they've grown crazily. But the cool thing is you have a buffer schedule. You can, this is a tweet, you know, I can put up, this is a tweet. And I can add to queue. And it will just add it to
hold on. You haven't shared your screen yet. Are you showing us?
You're right. I haven't shared my screen.
Share your screen. Share your screen.
Oops. That would be a good thing to do. All right. Yeah. Hopefully everyone can see my screen now. Okay. So I'll just do it again. So like this is a tweet, you know, you can buffer it to a regular schedule and it's nice for just queuing up tweets if you want to do them all in advance, or you can do schedule post. So what I'll just do is tomorrow morning at 6:10 a.m., it will be scheduled to go out. So just like this one right here, which is always in the hopper. It's 6:10 and I'm not up because I'm lazy. Reply to this tweet for $5 via PayPal, assuming my alarm did not malfunction. That's built in for some fault tolerance in case the power goes out or something. I don't want to be on the line for money that I shouldn't have to spend. But it's there, limit 5, so it doesn't break the bank. I'm getting a little up there in followers. And then this hashtag there, that's important because that's for Beeminder. Actually, you know what? It might not be important anymore. I just realized Beeminder has upgraded their system.
Woohoo!
So essentially what I got to do every morning is wake up before this goes out, come upstairs, turn my computer on, wait for everything to load, then I have to get the site up, and then I have to go delete. Or what I usually do is actually I'll just change the time to the next day, and then we're good. So basically I'm just moving it forward every single day. Now, what this does is it forces me to go through a lot of different steps before I could feasibly go back to bed. And I found that doing this complex routine in the morning is enough to get me past that sleepy state. And I usually never feel a desire to go back to bed. So it's perfect. I've also seen apps where like it'll force you to do some math problems before you can turn the alarm off. It's the kind of the same idea.
Oh,
like,
yeah, I've seen that too.
Through some mental effort before you can get up. So the way that the system works, obviously if it goes up to Twitter, then people will reply to me and they'll go, haha, gotcha, give me $5.
How often has that happened?
It's happened, I think it's happened twice.
In how long? In how many years?
In a year.
In a year, okay.
Now, both times I did wake up, but I forgot to turn the buffer thing off. So I have to remember to get up and not get distracted and actually go switch the alarm off. So 100% success rate in actually getting me out of bed, but like a 98% success rate for actually remembering to turn the computer on. There's that initial fear, heads off the pillow. Oh, I got to get up now. But then I have to remember once I'm upstairs. One thing I would like to improve in the future is to figure out a way to do this without having to interact with the computer first thing in the morning, because it's very tempting to look at email and stuff like that and just kind of like slip into urgent but not important tasks. So that's something that I'm going to be thinking through. It's kind of tough. I could potentially use like location with iOS and like make myself walk to a certain point outside my house or something like that.
I love the creativity. Well, and who knows? Maybe a listener has some ideas about how you can do that without being on the computer. Because I agree, that would happen to me too.
Ideas are definitely welcome, you know. And I mean, it could be the point. Like the way it works with Beeminder is it's a goal to do less. My goal is to never have a data point hit Beeminder, otherwise it will charge me. But I could switch it over to a do more goal where it's like some sort of data entry is done before a certain time each day. I just haven't figured out how to make BeamMinder know that it was happened before a certain time in the day. So I could program something. It's a little bit in the weeds at this point. But the way that you can do all this is with IFT, I believe they pronounce it. And IFT is just a service that allows you to connect other services together to do things that each one couldn't do. Really easy example is that like Instagram and Twitter don't play well together because Instagram is owned by Facebook. So they don't want you to be able to post your pictures to Twitter when you do an Instagram post. Well, IFT will let you do it. Every time I take an Instagram picture, it can go to Twitter. So the cool thing is I used to have to do IFT Twitter, which when Buffer would tweet out, then that hashtag, the sleeping in hashtag, would trigger this IFT recipe and email BeamMinder's bot service to then charge me money. Since then, BeamMinder's actually added their own channel on IFT. So now you can see this little B logo here, that's theirs. And essentially, it's just a recipe. So if a new tweet by Tom Franklin with the hashtag sleeping in is there, then add a data point for Tom Franklin. I've got the goal. So the goal is wake up, 1 data point. And I'll show you BeamMinder's interface right here. So basically, BeamMinder, as we said before, is a service where you can set up goals. And if you don't stick to those goals, then you'll be charged whatever amount of money you've pledged. By default, the original amount of money is only $5. And I think the way it works is you get a certain amount of freebies where you can set up goals where the first time you fail, you wouldn't be charged. But then to retry it, you would have to commit that initial $5. And then after that, it starts tripling. So I believe it goes to 10 the second time, but then it's like 30, then it's like 100. And basically the idea is like it's the nuclear option. If you can't get yourself to do something, then you have to figure out what amount of money is going to motivate you to do this hard thing. For example, a guy named Nick Winter was wanting to write a book. So he committed $7,000 to a BeamMinder book.
Wow.
And it wasn't, and here, the key insight here is that it's not good to set goals, like achievement-based goals. Like he didn't set, I will finish this book by this date. He simply said, I will write 500 words a day. And that's it. Otherwise, I'll lose $7,000.
Got it.
So that's like a daily reminder that like there is something huge writing, and all I have to do to not lose that huge amount of money is write 500 words. What would I rather do? Lose 7K or just sit down and crank out 500, even if it's terrible, you know? Yeah. So same thing with waking up. Now, for me, I don't want to lose. So I don't need to have a huge amount of money pledged. But as you can see, this is a really boring BeamMinder graph because there's never been a data point added. But as another example, so the other goal I use BeamMinder to track is content creation for College Info Geek. Before I started using BeamMinder, I was averaging like a post a week, maybe every 2 weeks. Really wasn't that disciplined about it. So I started using BeamMinder, and once I used it, you can see here consistently 3 posts a week or 2 posts a week. I went down to 2 when I started doing videos seriously because they just take a lot of time. But I do a podcast and a video every single week, and if I don't, I'm going to lose $10.
Got it. Oh, and let me interrupt right here because Kaylee asked, where does the money on BeamMinder go if it's lost?
If you pay money to BeamMinder, that's how they make money. So
okay, so it just goes to them. So you're giving it to their organization. So they make money by you being.
They make money when you fail.
Habit.
Wow. Yeah, but no, they're really cool people. I actually had them on my podcast as guests. I don't remember the episode number, but I talked to them about it, and they do their best to make sure that you're never charged unless you legitimately screwed up and failed.
Right.
So like if you're what they call is this yellow brick road, you want to have your data points above the yellow brick road, and if you go below it, that's when you're charged. If you happen to do that, they'll send you an email and be like, hey, did something screw up? Or like, what's wrong? Did you have like a doctor's appointment or something? So it's still kind of like a little bit of honor system, but you at least have this person that you know, like knows you screw up and
interesting
lie to them or not. So, I mean, it's not as foolproof as like hiring the drill instructor from Full Metal Jacket to watch over you every day.
Right.
But it's like the closest you can get that I found. That's like an automated system that you don't need to like hire somebody to keep you in check.
Yeah, well, I love this because I have a little triangle that I share with my clients, and each point of the triangle is a different thing that you kind of need to put into action to follow through. And one of them is just to have the right tools. So BeamMinder would be an example of a tool. And then the other is the right routines. But then the last corner is the right, like, team, people who help support you in following through.
Yeah.
And often, friends or parents or teachers or coaches or whatever can be on your team. But I love that there's a little bit of a team feel with this too, that BeMinder is both a tool and a team member to help support you in following through.
Yeah, and speaking of teams, that will play heavily into the next app that I'm going to show once we get done with the whole wake up thing. But yeah, actually, so one thing that I want to mention with BeMinder is that it can be really effective, but for one, it can be tempting to set so many goals because you're like, oh, I could be on the hook for money for X, Y, and Z, and like 10 different goals. You can burn yourself out on this. You can get overwhelmed. So, use it sparingly. I think it's really effective if you have a couple of goals, but if you're trying to BeMind like 20 things, it's not going to have a good time. Now, cool thing is you can see here this word, if you can't read it, it says acrasia horizon. Basically, acrasia is this ancient Greek term, which basically boils down to I do things that are against my own self-interest. I'm not willing to do that which is beneficial towards my long-term goals. It's basically like a catch-all term for impulsiveness, and basically explains that our brains are not wired to think long-term and act in our long-term interests.
Right.
So the cool thing about Acrasia Horizon is basically you cannot change your goal and have it implemented right now. Like if I wanted to be like, oh, I only want to do one blog post a week from now on, that would take effect a week later. So you can never impulsively log in and be like, I'm lazy, I'm just going to sneakily change my goal to one a week, or I'm going to sneakily change my goal to let me wake up early or wake up late like one day. You could say, I'm going to let myself wake up late a week from now.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there's a question here. Is there a way to set up BeMinder, or from Annie? Is there a way to set up BeMinder to fail you if you don't do a thing once during the week, but if you want to do it anytime during that week? Let's see here. Oh, yes. So basically what Annie's asking is, can you set up BeMinder to make sure you do something at least once during that week? Yes, and that's actually how this is set up. This is not watching to see if any post, like a post is published on a certain day. All it's watching me do is publish things by week to week basis. So the goal is essentially weekly rate 2. As long as I am putting out a post twice a week, no matter when it is, then it'll add those data points on that day. And as long as that graphed line is above this plotted line that represents my goal, then I'm in the green. I'm good. So and actually you can see down here all the data points. These are sent via RSS, which is just the way that the blogs can like let people know about new posts.
Oh, and that's why you showed us the if thing, the if then thing.
Well, actually, you don't have to use if for that. You only have to use if for the Twitter thing. But so let's take a look at goals. Actually, if you want to make a new goal, you create a new goal, and then so most goals are going to be like do more, like run more, draw more. Draw comics, like Annie said. Write more or study more. You could do less. Like I want to eat less cake. I want to drink less coffee. Do that. Play less video games. They have specific ones like losing weight, gaining weight, whittling down your inbox. But let's just do more. Now, a cool thing is they have a lot of integrations that you don't need to use if for. So say you want to keep your email in check. You could actually use their Gmail integration, and it will make sure your inbox doesn't have too many red messages that haven't been dealt with yet. Or Rescue Time, that's an app that will monitor the time you spend in different apps on different websites and then categorize that by productivity type. So like say you want to spend less time on Reddit, more time working in Photoshop if you're a designer, Rescue Time can tell you how much time you're doing in that, and then you could connect that up to BeMinder to force yourself not to be wasting time on your computer. All these things. Or you could just do a text-based entry goal. So say read more, it's very easy. Tom Franklin says read. Now, so let's say I want to read 50 pages a week. So actually, it's called pages. So there, I could read 50 pages a week. Now that goal's there, I can visit it. So since I'm not hooking this up to any app, I would basically need to log in and say, I read 50 pages today, create a data point, and then it would keep me good. And if I don't, then I'm going to fail. So really simple way to keep yourself on the hook to do things. But like I said, you can do other things besides threatening yourself with losing money.
So, okay, so what if you have to get up and like have BeMinder be like the thing that you get up every morning to do BeMinder, or else it will charge you? Like, do you have to do the whole Twitter thing?
You could do it to where you have to enter a data point to say I'm awake. The only thing is I haven't yet figured out a way without my roundabout Twitter method to make BeMinder know what time you're putting that data point in.
Okay.
So like,
got it.
I haven't figured out a way to let it accept it if you put it in at 6, but not accept it if you put it in at 7.
Right.
And the founders have told me there's some like programming wizardry they can do to help me figure that out. I just need to get with them to do it, but it hasn't been a priority for me because the Twitter system works so well.
Cool.
Once you set it up, it's a little kind of complex to set up, but once you set it up, it's perfect. I actually get a lot of people asking me, hey, I don't use Twitter, or, I don't have any followers on Twitter, so I have no, motivation for that. You don't have to use Twitter. With IFT, you could use email, or you could use Facebook. You could use Buffer to schedule a Facebook post. You could use Buffer to schedule a LinkedIn post. Any sort of system you're on. And then even if people aren't going to see it because you don't have a whole lot of friends or followers, you can still tie it to BeMinder. Nice. There's your motivation.
Nice. So I want to just step back just for a second, because we promised 5 oddly effective tools. And so far, how many tools have you shared with us? Because it seems like we have more than one tool here.
Yeah, we're going to have more than 5. I think I've shared 3 so far.
Okay. I think I should have said 5 plus oddly effective tools. And for my own purposes, but I bet there are people listening who are like, whoa, this is going by so fast. I want to say that you're all going to get a recording if this is something you want to implement. Probably it'll be out by tomorrow morning, and then you can rewatch it. You can slow down. But I'm also thinking, Thomas, that this is a new product that you have to do, which is like just a little how-to setup booklet.
Actually, it's
step by step.
Let me see. There we go. I made a video on it. So.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes, there's a video that shows the whole thing, and then there's also a blog post somewhere on the site that.
Okay.
Here it is. Actually, here's the blog post. This whole thing has screenshots, shows the entire thing that I did. So if you want it, the video's on the YouTube channel. It's the easiest way to find it.
Okay.
And we can move on. So
cool. Yeah, can we do Habit RPG? Because I just love the way you are using that. And I want to make sure that we have time to see that. We also have several questions that were emailed in beforehand. So let's see if we can get the tools done. And then I also see Renato has a question. So then we can spend the rest of our time taking people's questions.
Sweet. Yeah. I thought that my presentation would go less than half an hour, but we're like already creeping up on it.
I knew it wouldn't.
I started using Habit RPG. I actually moved over from a different tool that I will reveal at the end of the webinar. But Habit RPG is the one I use now because I wanted to build a morning ritual where I would basically be working on several different goals that I could incrementally progress on every single day, and also give myself some momentum to move into the work for the day. Because I know that knowing myself, if I get up and just immediately try to start working, it's not very efficient. I do much better if I have a few things done that are not related to my job, and then I could be like, yes, I'm refreshed, I'm energized, ready to go. So I wrote this post about my morning ritual, but I wanted something to track my morning ritual and also track some other habits. Now, Habit RPG is the best system I have ever found for this purpose. Number one, because I'm a video game nerd. I grew up playing Pokemon and Rogue Galaxy and all sorts of RPGs and stuff, so I love it. But it's got several, actually video games themselves have several different facets that are amazing for habit building. Like there's a reason you play so much Pokemon when you get into it, because there are systems built in, experience that your monsters get, the drive to catch everything. The progression that they give you, the challenges that ramp up in difficulty steadily, all that stuff is built into the game to get you basically hooked and to build a habit. Well, you can take all those elements from a video game and you can plug them into a real life system to force yourself to do things that you might not want to do every day. And that's what Habit RPG is. So these 3 columns, habits are simply things that you either want to do or not do, and you can make them pluses or minuses. So like, I was a nail biter for years. I've been a nail biter ever since I can remember.
Oh.
And my girlfriend was just constantly bugging me about it. And I was just like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And then she went and found a bunch of research about like how bad nail biting is and everything. So I was like, okay, you've convinced me. I'm going to stop. So I put it into Habit RPG, and literally the day I put it in there, I stopped biting my nails.
And that's it?
Yep, that was it. I have not bitten them for probably 5 or 6 months now.
Okay, but do you still have it on Habit RPG, or did you take it off?
It's right here. Yep.
Okay,
It's still on there. So I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I found that. I think for that one, I could probably take it off. I think I've thoroughly kicked the habit. I think I've kept it on there just as a reminder.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say I stopped flossing when I took it off of Habit.
Oh, did you? Okay.
So
I do consistently floss because I cannot stand the thought of going to the dentist. That would be the worst thing ever. I should probably go to the dentist for a checkup, but I definitely don't want to go in there for any sort of like work.
Don't you love? People are here for academic tips, comments, academic tips, and we're talking about nail biting and flossing.
Hey, you got to take a holistic vision of it.
There you go.
You can apply anything from another area into your academic life. So I think, I use a lot of examples that aren't from academics these days because I don't go to class anymore.
Right.
I think it's all applicable. Now, the most important part of Habit RPG for me, though, is the daily section. Because the daily section are things that you want to do every day. Now, you can change it to be a certain day of the week, and not every day. Like check Mint. I use Mint to track all my finances. And if I go to edit here, you can see Mint only happens on Wednesdays. I don't want to be looking at my bank accounts every single day. That's not very helpful. So now with a goal, you can set the day for it. You can set tags if you want, and you can set the difficulty attributes. These all go into how they provide experience to your character and how loot drops happen. So that's kind of complex, and the game purposely makes it simple when you join. You don't have this third bar here. All you have is health and experience and gold, basically. So when you check something off, hey, I did wake up at 6:30 a.m. So I get some gold. I got some experience. I got some magic. I can spend this gold on rewards, which are gear for my character, health potions in case I get damaged, or I can create custom rewards like watch an episode of Game of Thrones. So if you have something that's actually really highly motivational for you, you can use that as a reward to push yourself to get some homework done or to floss every day or to do something. So I basically got my entire morning routine in here. I wake up before 6:30, brush my teeth, take vitamins, meditate for a little while, make breakfast, always check my calendar, plan my day, which I'll show you guys in a bit. And then I also have some afternoon things. I always want to be checking the College of Geek Guild here on Habit RPG just so I can answer questions, read my daily page count. This basically makes sure that I'm reading every single day because reading is essentially how I learn new material to present these days. And make sure I get my water intake and also clearing my PC and desk to neutral. This is kind of a side tip that I highly recommend anyone do. If you go to bed at night and you leave your computer on with all the tabs open and your desk is a mess, then you wake up the next morning and instead of your mind being clear and able to slip into focus on the first task of the day, you slip into the email you left open or the Reddit thread or whatever you left in your desk. So I make sure I close all tabs, shut up my computer off at night, which also saves energy, and then clear my desk off. So just like a chef, whenever you finish making a meal, if you're a chef, you clean the kitchen area. That way the next time you come to cook, everything is ready to go.
And I think that is so fabulous, and I just don't do it. So you may be inspiring me to I've actually lapsed with Habit RPG, so this may be getting me to jump in.
Well, as you can see here, my streak numbers are actually pretty low. I actually reset everything because I was lapsing as well with travel and everything. So I got back, and I think sometimes you just need to hit the reset button. So it's useful. Now, what I think is the best aspect of Habit RPG is the party system. And the reason for this is that you can accept quests. And when you and your party are on a quest.
So hold on. Slow down just a second. What is a party for people who may not know?
Oh, it's right. Okay, so a party is like a group. So you can get into a group with several other people or even just one other person. And once you're in a party, you as that group can accept quests, which usually involve just battling a boss. Like all these listed here are just bosses that we've fought. So at the end of every day, based on how many dailies you completed, how many habits you checked off, and then also to-dos, if you want to use it as a to-do list, you can for one-off tasks, you'll deal damage to the boss. But if you didn't do dailies, you will take damage from the boss. And the important factor here is that the person who is also in your party with you will take damage because of what you did.
Yeah.
So there's that pressure there. Like, I can't let my friends get hurt. If they die, they lose a level and they lose gear they worked really hard for. So I got to get all my stuff done every day. This was fantastically motivational for me. Just to give you guys an example, about a year ago, I got into a horrible Magic the Gathering phase. and spent most of my days researching combos to build into my decks. And as a result, I only wrote like one blog post a week, or maybe it was horrible, right? So I was like, one day I was like, this cannot go on anymore. I need to figure out how to be more consistent with my blogging, with all these things that I'd let go, let lapse. So I got into a party with my roommate, who was also super into Habit RPG, and just, the threat of accidentally having him get killed because I didn't do my stuff was enough to make sure I wrote a lot more content. I got back on the podcast, and the biggest achievement, I actually wrote a book. I've been trying to write a book for like 2 or 3 years at that point. And once I write 500 words a day into Habit RPG, I finished the book in 3 months. So, and I mean, the book has been like the most amazing thing for my business ever.
Yeah.
So
and for those of you who are tuning in, I mean, so many of the questions that we got beforehand were just like, oh my God, I never follow through, or oh, I just can't focus. And one of the things that Thomas has said numerous times now, and I just want to make sure that I put a pin on it for you guys, is when you can break the habit down into a small enough part that it feels doable. Like 500 words is something that anyone can do. You can sit down and do it. And in fact, I just shared with Thomas when we were preparing for this, there are even fun websites, where you see like Written Kitten, where you see a new cat every 100 words that you write. And if 500 words is too many, you can do fewer. But one of the important things when you are having trouble following through is figuring out what is that smallest, tiny thing. And then how can you use tools or systems, maybe like Habit RPG, to help reinforce getting that tiny thing done.
Yeah, essentially it's all about getting past your brain's resistance to start up on a task. And you can do that in a few different ways. One of them is to make the task easy enough that resistance is easy to overcome. And another way is to build systems that have consequences that are worse than doing the thing. So between the threat of having my friend get damaged and the easiness of writing 500 words, which I did not specify that they had to be good words. Some nights it was like 11:50 p.m. and I was writing, I hate my life, I don't want to write, and I got to 500, and maybe like 100 of them were usable for the book. It's more about the act of making yourself do something than making something perfect. I think another thing is, don't expect yourself to be perfect every time. People who are good, who are what they do, especially people who are good at creating things, a good percentage of what they create is bad. But later on, you can edit that down. Like most of what I film in my videos is me like messing up takes or like getting really mad because my lights are flickering, but nobody ever sees that. So it's okay.
So I'm looking at the time and just seeing things galloping now, and we've got a lot of questions coming in. And I would love, since you've never really had an opportunity to actually speak directly to the people in your network, I would love to make sure that we have a chance to do that. So is there anything more that you want to share with Habit RPG, and then any other of the tools to show us before we move into the questions?
Yeah, I have some other tools that I want to go through real fast. I was going to show my planning system before we get into questions. So with Habit RPG, I also have a video on that on my YouTube channel. So if you're curious, there's more detail there. There's also a guild with amazingly helpful people. Maybe some of you are in the guild and people answer questions in the guild, not just me. So if you've got questions and you want to learn how to use it, get in there and also get on the wiki. They have an amazingly well-made wiki. So let's see here. If I can remember my Chrome shortcuts here. So planning and to-do system. It's 3-tier, basically Todoist, which is, I pay for it, but you can get a free version. Essentially, it's very similar to Wunderlist. I like the simplicity of it, but I group my life into different areas. So like content is all content creation. I put the content I need to make in there. General stuff goes in there. Personal things go in there. And then I can look at my next 7 days to see what all I need to do, which actually did this podcast. And I actually did set up my car auto payment. So,
and did you prepare for today?
I did, actually.
Oh, very good.
Which is why I'm not freaking out right now. But so whenever I have a task come up, I put it in Todoist. Todoist is my top level task capture system, along with Google Calendar. So if I have an event, it goes into Google Calendar. Now with Google Calendar, you're actually looking at the week of August 23 to 29, 2009, which was my first week of college. This was my calendar the first week, and it helped immensely. And I color-coded it by making different calendars for different segments of my life. So if I don't want to see classes, I can turn them off and on. And this helped me to organize my time going into college, which was super helpful because there was no longer any mom to yell at me. But every single morning, as part of that morning routine in Hybrid RPG, look at calendar, check calendar. So every single morning it's going to happen. And with this system, I'll never miss an event, which I have done in the past. Even if something's on my calendar, it doesn't help me unless I look at it. So that's the first level. And then we've got the paper systems, which comprise the second and third levels. So every Sunday, I create a list in my notebook. My notebook's sitting right next to me. It's kind of my catch-all for everything. I'll do events, and then I'll do tasks. So this is basically the whole week at a glance. And then every single morning when I wake up, part of my morning routine is to get in front of my whiteboard here and create a list of all the things I want to do that day. Now you can see there's a few different components here. I try my best to write everything I want to do in order, and then I will write a time at which I expect to be done with that task. Now, one thing that is good to know here is that you need to build kind of like a buffer into your brain, because we tend to underestimate the time it will take to do something. Basically, we guess best case scenario, even though in the real world you get normal case scenario, not best, and sometimes you get worst. So I'll be like, oh, I think I could have that podcast published by 8:15, 9 o'clock. Oh, I think I could finish editing the video by 2:30.
Right. It's always the case. Always the case.
It always is. And you know what? I'm not perfect. Almost every day I have things in the list that are not done, but I get the majority of them done, so the system works well. And I've had to learn through practice how to estimate my times. Now this system, or this list right here, is too big. I've been pushing myself kind of hard lately. Generally, if you can, put your system or break your system down to only have about 3 or 4 tasks in a given day that you need to get done. Otherwise, you're going to overwhelm yourself.
And speaking of too big, here's a question I want to jump in because it's relevant. Dina says that our asks, doesn't having so many levels get confusing because you have a digital to-do list and a handwritten one?
I think for most people it would. The thing I tell people about productivity is embrace your idiosyncrasies, embrace your weirdness. If something works for you,
I love it.
Then that's awesome. You should use it. So I've been honing my task management system for a long time. I like having a digital system to catch things as they come up, but I really like being able to check things off on a whiteboard daily and erase it and kind of start over every day. And I like being able to carry a notebook around in my backpack that tells me what my week is. So that's for me. I don't recommend trying to replicate my system entirely. And if you do and it doesn't work, that's because it's my weird system that works for me. So, find what works for you. It could just be a planner, or it could be something like Wunderlist. But the one thing I think is constant among these is that you shouldn't use your catch-all task system as your daily task system, because it's really easy to just look at everything you have to do, and you've got that dentist appointment that you're supposed to schedule a month from now mixed in with the homework assignment that's due tomorrow, and you're just like, no, I don't want to do this.
I think that's really smart of you to say that. And just for other resources, folks, there is a planner that I just found that actually is the first one I've been inspired to perhaps order, and it's called Planner Pad. And it would be a way to actually, it seems like it's structured kind of the way you're doing this, Thomas, but it's all just in a paper planner.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm all for consolidation of the system. Another big thing is this is a system I built as somebody who works from home and then goes to coffee shops. I'm not always at classes and stuff. The majority of my work can be done wherever I want. So if you're the kind of person who's going to classes a lot, or a job, then maybe you want a system that's easier to access from wherever you are. Right. Because I'm weird enough to the point where if I want to go to a coffee shop, I take a picture of my whiteboard with my phone. And then I love it. It's super dumb. I realize it's dumb. It
works. I love
but it works for
weirdness. I just love it.
I get things done.
I just love it.
So I think that's a pretty good overview of my system and everything. I think we can kind of move into questions now.
Great. I've been trying to sort of clean up the Q&A as we've been going and saying hi to, by the way, we have, in terms of international, we have folks from Dubai and Aruba and Brazil, and I think I've missed one. So we have folks from all over the place, including all over the United States.
That's awesome.
So that's super awesome. Let's start with just maybe even here. Let's start with Well, actually, here's what I want to do. I'm going to start just looking at the questions that are in the Q&A. But if you have a question that you would really like to ask Thomas out loud, we have time for me to upgrade you to a panelist so that you actually can talk to us. So indicate that in the Q&A. And otherwise, let's, do you see at the very top here, we have Lisa asking a question.
Is it answered or open?
It's open.
Lisa?
And, yeah, I'll just read Lisa's while you're looking for it.
I can't see it for some reason.
Okay, that's fine. I'll read it. So Lisa says, hey, my son, who is age 14 and very ADHD inattentive, has a really hard time managing his time. He forgets to look at his daily planner. He can't read his own writing. He's looking, or she is looking, to help him manage his school and life projects better. But the methods need to be super simple, and also she needs to figure out how to motivate him. Now, I know you know, your specialty here is college students, but do you have any, like, can you sort of think back to when you were a 14-year-old boy and imagine you had ADHD and think like, what systems might work for a situation like that?
Yeah, I think when I was 14, I just had the planner that my school gave me, and I would try to get everything in there. And I wasn't always perfect about it, but I would just try to remember everything. Yeah. You know, the simplest system that I've seen is the one that Cal Newport talks about in his book, How to Become a Straight A Student. And it's just a piece of paper with a planner. So he would just record things in the planner as they came up. And then every day he would just rip a piece of paper off of a scratch pad and write down the 3 or 4 things he needed to do that day. Now, I think the big thing here is that you need to find a system that can enable your son to remember what needs to be done. And immediately in my head, the solution to that is to build a habit of checking the system every day. So I think the root of the problem is the motivation to check the system. For me, Habit RPG does that because I'm invested in the game aspect of it. So you find some sort of motivator that can spur him on to check the system every single day diligently, you know, end on end. Maybe that's Habit RPG. Maybe that's something like a sign on the door. Maybe it's something like you could use a service that would send him a daily text, you know, check your thing. There's a concept with Habit RPG, with any kind of habit design actually, called meta habits. Meta habits is simply habits based around managing your habits. So if you could build some sort of system that creates a meta habit for him, I actually like the idea of an alarm every day. It's like, check your system to make sure you know what you're doing. Right. I've got those for my girlfriend actually, because so like my phone will go off every day. Hey Anna, you did something?
I was gonna say, how's that working for the relationship? But that's a different.
Luckily, we have a lot of humor in our relationship. Good. I manage the tasks, and she makes fun of me for it, and we're good.
Good. And so, Lisa, I want to add that you could also email me directly if you want at Gretchen@GretchenWegner.com, because that's actually what I do, is work with 14-year-old ADHD students who have issues organizing. And there are a lot of different layers here, including you're the parent. So there are certain things that you may not be able to get him to do at age 14 that somebody else might be able to. And I have some thoughts, and I also have weekly videos for middle and high school students about that. So Gretchen@GretchenWegner.com, you could reach out to me and we could be in contact about that.
Cool.
Steve wants to be promoted.
Let's do it.
I'm bringing you in, Steve. Bringing you in. There he is.
Cool, I'm here.
Hello.
Hey,
what's up?
Okay. So Thomas, I just want to say, first of all, I'm about to be a college freshman going to UT, but your blog has changed my life, man. I'm about to start reading
Yes.
College, this book.
Good book.
Anyway, so my question is, so I listened to your podcast today on the part-time jobs, and do you remember in Debt for You how he was talking about getting a job as a caddy?
Potentially, yeah. I think he may have talked about. Oh, yes.
So I was expecting you to talk about that in the podcast, and you didn't. Would you recommend that as a job?
Yes, I would, if you have that opportunity. I'm not always comprehensive in my podcasts because I typically go off of memory and a little tiny just bullet point list. But yeah. I mean, the jobs that I talked about in the podcast, I didn't list every option out there because I didn't want to be like the government job list in audio form on that episode. But yeah, a caddy is an excellent job because you're not only making money, but you're talking. I mean, it's a chance to network with people who have a lot of connections, who are probably golfing on business trips and things. So yeah, excellent job. I would consider it a tier 2 job.
Okay.
So, I mean, unless like your major is like sports management or something.
Can you guys give us a quick, for those of us who don't know, can you give us a quick summary of what tier?
Yeah. So in my mind, there's 4 tiers of part-time jobs in school. Tier 1 is any job that gives you specific industry experience in your major. Basically, any job that's going to enable you to go talk to the vice president of a company about the job you want when you graduate. Working in tech support when I was a freshman was a tier 1 job because it enabled me to talk to the vice president of IT at a Fortune 500 about corporate IT practices. And he was like, how do you know about this stuff? You're a kid. Tier 2 jobs are any job that enhances your soft skills. So a job that enhances your organizational skills, something that lets you talk on the phone a lot or present to people in person. When I was a new freshman orientation leader, I had to present to like 250 people about how to sign up for classes. That was an amazing experience. Cool. I had to give tours of campus, that kind of thing. Tier 3 are warm body jobs. So anything that gives you a lot of downtime to work on homework and basically better yourself while getting paid.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing now. Yes, nice. I read College Info Geek while I'm at work.
That's an amazing job.
Excellent.
I almost want to call that a tier 1 job. And then tier 4 is just anything else that doesn't really offer any ancillary benefits but still pays you. So I mean, like if the only thing you can find is flipping burgers and it pays you and you need money for college, flip burgers, you know? But I would say to look for jobs in the higher tiers if you can find them and be willing to keep looking even if you find another one.
Nice. Cool. Is there anything else, Steve, in terms of you're wanting to ask before we have a whole list of questions here. So I want to keep us moving along.
That was it, but I'll say before I go though, Thomas, about drinking the water. I drink probably a gallon of water a day, and the thing to worry about is like I get thirsty all the time, and it's actually kind of an inconvenience.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So interestingly, your body will adapt to what you're putting into it, like the levels of it. So you probably don't need a gallon a day, though it's fine. When I was a freshman, I was drinking 2 gallons a day, so you're not going too high yet.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Steve. I am going to downgrade you. I hate these words, upgrade and downgrade. I need to have better words for them, but I'm going to
sign off.
Sign off. I'll sign you off. There we go. I'll sign you off, and I'm signing on. Castle is coming on next, so I'm going to get Castle going first before I see. I'm kind of learning how to do all of this here. So Castle is coming on.
You're going to become a Zoom ninja.
Zoom ninja. That is good. Okay. Steve, you'll be coming off this. Just hang tight while I figure it out. And Castle, hello. What's your question?
Hi. So I'm trying to start off. I'm inclined to be organized, but I have not yet branched into the organization of your time and your resources and getting work done. Thomas mentioned how he had to develop his own personal system for himself. I was curious about how he actually particularly formed it to himself. Like, you can't start 5 different systems at once. It's kind of a process.
Right. And we're looking at somebody who you've been this organized and honing since your freshman year of college, right, Thomas?
Who, me, disorganized?
Yeah. Well, this organized. You've been playing with your systems for years now, right?
Yeah. I've definitely been playing with my organization systems for years. Did not start out the way it looks.
Yeah. It's a great question, though.
Like
Castle.
anything else, it's just it's a progression. And for me, I'm as a computer geek, I love playing with tools and finding new apps and stuff. So all throughout college, I would try new apps. I remember I tried one called Productive. I tried one called To Do with like DEUX, like French do on there. Wunderlist was my go-to for a long time. And that's actually where I learned that having everything in one system that you also try to use as your daily system is a bad idea, because I would have this amazingly well-attended Wunderlist, but every time I would look at it, it just had so many tasks in it. Like I had lists of movies I wanted to watch with the lists of homework that was due that week. And it just, there's too much data in the system to deal with. So I eventually found another app called Strike, which doesn't even give you an account. It just gives you like a basically disposable URL where you can put in like a daily list, and I would make that every day. So I was a 2-tier system at that point, Wunderlist and Strike. Before that, it was just a planner. And essentially, it was a process of taking all the inputs, putting them into a system, tweaking the system to my needs, and eventually scrapping it for a new one as I got bored. And I will admit, a lot of it was due to boredom. Like, I liked futzing around with things. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't really care to mess around with an organizational system, yours might not change so much. It might be very similar to what you're using now, just a little bit tweaked down the line.
All right. I think I get what you mean about having too many things in the same system. I actually have that issue a little bit myself, and I just got a planner that I'm trying to start my own system. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, even if your planner feels too overwhelming, you could look at it in the morning and then just have a Post-it note where you write down what you need to do that day. Just keep that Post-it note in your pocket. And that's like the simplest system I could think of. But whenever you need to know what you're doing, pull it out, stick it next to your workbooks, and off to the races.
Thank you. I actually do have a lot of Post-it notes. I'm trying to get away from that.
Get away from them. Too drowning in Post-it notes.
Write them on your hand or something.
Well, and
Thanks.
I think that the one thing I want to say, Castle, is that one of the most important skills I think a person needs is the ability to troubleshoot their own habits and to know when to try something new if something's not working, but also to figure out when trying something new is a distraction and procrastination. And if you can sort of get good at figuring that out and just always get good at troubleshooting your systems, like that's kind of like the main meta skill that all of this fits under. And it just takes time to develop it.
Yeah. So the programmers have this chart where you can figure out if you're wasting time or not by building more efficient tools by looking at like how many times, how frequent you need to do the task and how long you're going to do it versus how long it takes to build the system that saves you time. So say I spend like 5 hours building a tool that will save me time doing something, but I only do this thing once a year and it takes it down from 10 minutes to 5 minutes. It's going to take me like decades to actually get back the time I spent building that system. But if it's something that takes me 10 minutes to kind of improve and it helps me take a process I do every single day down from 10 minutes to 1 minute, that's an amazingly high gain in efficiency. So just try to think about like how much time am I spending messing with my systems and how much time am I saving by improving these systems.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting thought process. I'll try to adapt that.
Awesome. Well, so nice to meet you, Castle. I'm going to bring Annie in now.
Yeah, thank you.
My ninja skills are actually getting better here, and what's the word? What am I doing?
Sign and Castle off.
I'm signing her off.
Hi.
Hey, Annie.
On?
You are on.
Great. Okay, so my question is mostly, right now, like during the summer, my schedule is just really wonky. It's like I have a part-time job, but my boss will text me and be like, hey, can you work like this time? And I'll know, like, I just found out today what my schedule is for like the next 3 days, and I have no idea what's going on next week. So like
Whoops.
like I'm trying to do this summer to get on like a regular schedule,
Annie,
like doing like, sorry, I guess my computer's telling me that Zoom is having issues, but it's like I'm connected to the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Okay, is it working now?
Yes.
So since my schedule is so weird, I'm like trying to put things on a regular schedule, like doing like Khan Academy because I'm trying to clap out of math, and I'm also trying to like do a weekly comic, but having time to do that comic when I don't know my schedule is just getting really hard for me. So like, I guess, what would you suggest?
Yeah, that's tough. When I was 15, I worked in a grocery store where I wouldn't know my schedule until the next week, and it was always different. Same when I worked at Target. So I feel you. The cool thing is you know what your schedule is at least a day in advance. So you can plug that into your calendar, and then you can see what the time blocks you have are around those work hours, and then you can create little pockets for working on your comics or doing Khan Academy. Now, maybe you've seen this in the videos to talk about trying to batch your small tasks into a small, little concentrated blocks of time. So if you can do that, then you free up larger blocks of time for that creative work, like your comics and stuff.
Yeah, like
Also,
I'm already doing that with like my like computer-based stuff where it's like, emails or whatever.
Yeah, perfect. You can also do it with things where you need to leave the house. Like if I try to batch my errands so I'm not running out every single day. Now, if you know that your work schedule, is variable, but it falls within a certain window of the day, then what you can try doing is modifying your sleep schedule a little bit to maybe create a few hours in the morning or maybe some hours at night, depending on how your body works to do more of that work. So I've had years where I will work on my blog from like 10 o'clock a.m. or 10 o'clock p.m. to 1 a.m. And now I have a schedule where I go to bed around 11 and I work from 7 a.m. till whenever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can try modifying your sleep schedule to work around that part-time job. And honestly, the other thing is you can look for a job that has more regular hours. If you like your job, it's not like a suggestion you have to go for, but I was always the kind of person that wanted a job that I liked, but also that worked with my life so I could pursue my goals along with it.
Yeah, I think my job right now is Starbucks.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So very similar to what I was
money.
doing. Yeah.
Its advantage over other jobs is that I have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I totally feel you. I mean, working in the grocery store, almost the same thing. And yeah, I mean, you kind of just have to work around the realities of your situation. Sometimes you have variable schedules and crazy things will pop up. It'll never be perfect. And I think that's a good thing. Like, I think we as humans should embrace the fact that our lives are never going to be perfectly focused periods of time where we work on only one thing and become amazingly good robots. There's always going to be some chaotic maelstroms of things getting in our way and new interests coming up, and that's good. I think it keeps things keeps things interesting.
Yeah. So thanks so much, Annie. We are right at 6:30, and so I just want to actually check in. Thomas, are you able to stay a little bit to handle some of the other questions that come in?
Yeah, I could probably do about 15 extra minutes.
Okay, so I think thank you so much, Annie. Here's my ninja skills right now. Here we go. Bye.
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 And so I just want to say a formal thank you. I know that people have to start getting off the call, but there will be a recording that comes out tomorrow-ish, tomorrow morning, hopefully. And so you can catch any of these answers if you need to go. And we're also not going to be able to get to all the questions even in the next 15 minutes. So maybe we'll try and do some laser.
Lightning round.
But I'll also be able to send, Thomas and I can look over the questions that we didn't get to later because I'll be able to capture a text image of the questions.
Yep, and these help with new videos as well.
Yeah, great, good. So then you can make videos to answer
and podcasts.
them. Excellent. So I actually want to go back to one of our emailed questions first. This is Kaylee. I don't know if she's still on, but she says that procrastination has always been her weak point, and she's great at managing time for things like work and class and practices, but she really struggles to force herself to make time for studying or homework assignments. Let's see, I often will find myself wasting my time that should be used for studying on pointless and non-productive activities. The next thing I know, 3 hours have gone by. How can I stop myself from wasting so much time? I'll be working 3 jobs and taking a full course load. I won't have much time left over.
Yikes. The 3 jobs thing is tough. I mean, that's going to take a lot of willpower. So procrastination is a tough nut to crack. Mm-hmm. Essentially, what we talked about earlier is the key to it. You need to figure out how to break a task down or create consequences to the point where your brain gets over that resistance to do it. Now, she said she's amazing at sticking to those already like set obligations, her job, her classes, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And this kind of ties into a book I was reading recently, written by another Gretchen, actually.
Gretchen Rubin, is it?
Rubin, who I accidentally blew off in an email because I thought it was you. I thought I had already talked to you. But yeah, we'll not talk about that too much. But she talks about in her book, though, she talks about this book, or she has a book on habit formation, and she talks about certain people who are obligers, amazingly good at sticking to external commitments that have other people behind them, but not so good at sticking to internal commitments. The self-motivated things like getting your homework done on time or studying an efficient amount of time. So the best thing that you can do if you're an obliger or have that tendency is to create systems that put an external motivator on doing those normally self-regulated tasks. So we talked about BeMinder. We talked about Habit RPG. If you have like a party that's kind of depending on you to get those dailies done, then you can set up those dailies to make sure you're studying a certain amount. But also breaking your task down into a manageable chunk. So we talked about the Pomodoro technique. Actually, we might have not talked about
We
it.
did not talk about Pomodoro, but people should Google it.
Yes, Pomodoro technique. Essentially, set a timer. Tell yourself, I'm going to work on this one thing for 25 minutes. The timer has to be a real timer, so it's an external motivator, not just like in your head 25 minutes. And also, you want to reduce the ease of access to your distractors, what I call your familiar haunts. If you tend to go to Netflix or you tend to go to Reddit, you can use Chrome extensions like Stay Focused to actually block those sites during certain times of the day. If you tend to go hang out with your friends, then you can march yourself onto the other side of campus and study in the library. Essentially, make it tough to slip into the most commonly distracting things, and you will not be able to get into them.
Yeah. And I'm realizing that another question that was emailed in earlier is sort of similar to Kaylee's, because Jennifer has a situation where she's, a lot of work, like 2 jobs, 18 credit hours. And so she asks, what is the best way to balance studying and working without getting distracted? Because it can be so easy to come home from work or class, and instead of doing homework, I just relax.
Yes.
And so my answer, I think, to that would be, then don't come home.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Don't go home. So the thing is, your environment plays such a large role in your motivation. They did a study at the University of Hawaii where all they did was they had certain students turn their desks toward a wall in their dorm room, and they had it turned towards this lamp. And they put a sticky note on the lamp, I believe, that said study lamp. And it was like pointed away from everything else in the room. And the students who did this ended up with higher GPAs than the students who didn't do it.
Interesting.
Because they were creating an environment that was completely designed around the context of studying. So if you come home and you see your beautiful 42-inch TV and you can watch Gilmore Girls on it or something, or you see your amazing gaming computer and you can play Counter-Strike all night or something, or your friends are there, then it takes so much more willpower to overcome those temptations and to make yourself study. You can do it, but it takes a lot of willpower. And willpower is a finite resource, which is something that we'll talk about on the channel coming up in the future here. So you want to give yourself every advantage by making it less of a willpower expenditure to study. Now, the problem with working 2 jobs and having classes is by the end of the day, once you're done with all that, your willpower reserves are like down here. Like it's almost as if you've been resisting chocolate chip cookies all day. So like you said, go to the library. Maybe even if you can schedule time with a study buddy who can help motivate you and make it less, sucky, for lack of a better word, do that. Yeah. Because it's going to be much easier to do if you can avoid those temptations. Yeah. And if you can't go to the library, do what the Hawaiian students did. Make yourself a little study nook in your room. It's got to be an area that's a unitasker. It's solely purposed studying.
I love all of that. I'm learning so much. I'm going to have to go watch this video myself again. We have a few questions about note-taking and your recent video.
Okay.
And Owo, I don't think you're going to be able to do this request because Owo asked if you could please go in a step-by-step order about how to set up your latest video about organizing notes, because Owo is confused about how to set it up. So I don't think we have time for you to do that. But if for people who might want to implement your system more specifically, like how could Owo move through the confusion and get some more help with it?
Yeah, I guess I would need to know what specific parts of the system. So what he's referencing is this video right here, how I stay or how I organize my notes, homework, and school files. That's broken down in multiple different systems because all the other school files are in Dropbox, which is just the folders on my computer. And I just made a hierarchy, which I showed in the video. So I think the easiest way to get a sense for that is to pause the video when the screenshot shows all my folder hierarchies. So it's very easy. It's college, and then I separate by year, and that I separate by class. And then each class, if there's multiple projects, each project will get a folder. That's basically to keep myself from saving things to the desktop and having a jumbled mess.
Yeah.
And then for notes, Evernote, I think a lot of people look at my Evernote and they get confused because I've been using it for 6 years. Evernote is not hard to learn. Evernote is actually a very simple app. It's just notebooks, and in notebooks you have notes. That's a very easy way to get started. So you could create a notebook for a class. Say you're taking, Chemistry 101, make a notebook for Chemistry 101. Then every time you want to do a new note, Control-N, or just new note, and there's your class notes for the day. So I would always just do a new note for each day's class notes. Class notes 11/29/09, and then write everything in there. And then later on, you can do tags if you want. Like you can tag lecture notes, you can tag book notes if you take book notes, that kind of stuff. But it's really easy to get started with Evernote. And then for folders or paper files, paper is really easy. I had a refillable notebook, but hey, that was because I didn't want to have a full backpack. If you want to have a notebook for each class, that's probably simpler. Go out and get yourself 60-cent Mead notebooks from Walmart and take your notes in there. Just make sure you have a file cabinet. The reason I had a file cabinet is because Iowa State sent me so many papers before I went to college. They were just everywhere. So I needed a folder for that. And then I signed up for a bank and I needed a folder for that. So I just went out and got a filing cabinet and just had everything in there. And it's made life much easier. So that's it for that.
Well, and there are all kinds of note-taking organization systems. Thomas has said, like, that works for him. And one of the things I do as an academic coach is help people brainstorm what will actually work for them and then help stay with them while they set their systems up and then follow through. So you can look at other people's systems. You can also, I have, in my anti-boring approach to powerful studying, I have a whole unit on note-taking and organization. So, there are possibilities, and you can email me for more about that.
Yeah.
At gretchen@gretchenwegner.com. I really want to get to Renato's question because it was a while ago, and Renato's been so patient, and it's kind of slightly a different topic. But he says, "Hi, Thomas. I'm a college student at the University of Sao Paulo, Brazil, and he just found College Info Geek this week. So he wants to know, so when it comes to what I want to do for a living, what comes to my mind is being a guy like Elon Musk or like you, an entrepreneur, someone who creates apps or products or that kind of thing. So he says that's a big goal. It's a long-term goal. So is it useful for him to think like that in a long-term way, or is it better for him to focus on more immediate, smaller things that are more tangible right now?"
Okay, yeah. So it's a balance between both. Long-term goals are the things that push you through, and they're kind of your reason for what you're doing. But you also need shorter-term tangible goals. So as an example, what I do is I have a page on my site called the Impossible List. This is where I keep all my big goals. So I want to get 100,000 blog visits in all time. Done. I want to create an iPhone app for my site. I want to speak at a university. These are all big overarching goals. But they don't really provide me with a whole lot of actionable steps to take right now. So I need to take a few and focus on them at a time, break them down into goals. You know what? I just realized I didn't share my screen.
Oh, you're showing us something?
I was showing people the Impossible List. Yes.
Oh.
So this is my Impossible List. Sorry about that. I'm still not a Zoom ninja. This is where I keep all those overarching goals. But like I said, they have to be broken down. So if you want to become somebody who is building a business, who is creating something for themselves, then the biggest thing you got to realize is, one, it's the act of being an entrepreneur is naturally the act of providing an excess of value for your time through creativity and through a lot of sheer work, but mainly through creativity. Because if you go work for somebody else, you're creating value by utilizing a system that they've set up for you. You're doing something that they've set up for you to do. Yes, there's innovation in employment. I don't want to insinuate that there's not, but to do what Elon Musk does, it's like a ridiculous amount of creativity because you're creating everything yourself. So you need to create goals based around solving a problem for somebody, but you also need to break those down into things you can work on now.
Love it.
And I think one of the biggest insights I've gotten over 5 years of working is that you're never going to get to where you thought you were going. 5 years ago. It's going to be incredibly different because as you get into what you're doing, as you become better and you get deeper into the problem and you realize the intricacies of it and you realize what you didn't know, second order incompetency, as they call it, you're going to change those goals. You're going to pivot, So I would say just focus on solving a problem, but be willing to change your tactics. Be willing to change the way you're doing things as you learn more.
Awesome. I wish we just had time for everything, and we just don't. I mean, there's one question here. What method do you use to learn anything? I mean, oof. I actually do have some thoughts about that. And so I am going to also, I will share these questions with Thomas, and I actually am going to go over to my own podcast because we have some Q&A sections on my podcast, and I will also answer the ones that I feel like I have thoughts about over there. So if you guys pay attention to my podcast, pay attention to I actually might do some videos on my blog for it too, and then Thomas will do his. So if you sort of pay attention to all those places, you will get your questions answered. Anything else you wanna say to kind of finish things off about how you hope people will connect with you, Thomas?
Yeah. So collegeinfogeek.com. If you sign up for the book, then you're on the newsletter, and that's like, if I have something big coming out, you'll hear about it there. I'm on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Tom Frankly. So I tweet things out of Tom Frankly. One thing I wanted to say, though, if you have more questions and you want them answered, so I haven't done this in a while, but a couple of times in the past, I've done live Q&A sessions on twitch.tv, which is a video game streaming service. It's basically a way for me to do this, but I thought it'd be more fun if I was like playing a game at the same time. People could watch. So if I do that, if you're on the newsletter and I'm going to do a session in the future, I will let you know. But on Twitch here, I've done a couple of them before. There's a chat right in Twitch, and you can type in questions and I can answer them on there. So I'm thinking once the semester starts up, I'm going to do more of these and get more questions answered live. Obviously, we have 50 people in this webinar. So yeah, fret not if your question was not answered here. I will try to get to it in video content and podcast content, but also when I run another session like this, hopefully I can get to you again. And like Gretchen said, she'll also try to get to questions in her podcast. So
yeah, and I think you and I should do this regularly together because we should both just answer the questions. Big Q&A.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll see what kind of craziness we can create. Okay, everyone. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Next week, we're going to be looking at ADD and ADHD and procrastination. And then those of you who are preparing for college or parents of folks preparing for college, we're going to be talking to Megan Dorsey with all your questions about the college app process. So see you next week, and take care, Thomas and everyone. All right.
See you guys.
Bye. The ninja right now is signing off.
All right.